Courtney. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to our Alaska and Hawaii time zone participants. My name's Aaron Wicks. I'm with the Community Action Partnership, and we're really excited to share this webinar with you. And most importantly, as Courtney said, to engage in a conversation, because we feel like we have a really exciting opportunity, a partnership that we have with the American Public Human Services Association. We think it's a good opportunity to showcase our network and the various things that we do, and also to give some opportunities to some of our local agencies to enter into some new agreements, or to expand some of the relationships that they have um, in the SNAP program broadly, as well as in the employment and training sphere. So hopefully those of you that have signed up for today's webinar are interested in learning more and considering maybe going a little bit deeper with us as we kind of go on this journey together. So today's webinar is really to tell you a little bit about what this is all about, and specifically what's in it for you, because we know that all of our agencies all across the country have been stretched thin for months now. And so the idea of, maybe taking on something new, or trying to develop a new partnership or relationship is a little tough to think about. But we also think this, in some ways, is a good opportunity um, to explore some new possibilities, particularly as many of our agencies have developed new relationships during the pandemic. Um, so we want to share that information, and then get your thoughts about any questions you have, or thoughts that you have about how we can um, you know more fully engage the network and support some of these growth opportunities. So I want to introduce my colleague, Steph Smith. Steph is heading up this program with us at the partnership. She's been working very closely with the lead agency on this grant, the APHSA, and our partners there. So I'm going to hand it over to Steph and ask her to introduce herself and our partners. Take it away, Steph.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I probably have spoken to many of you, but I'm Steph Smith. I'm the senior associate for this project at the partnership, and it's a true partnership. We could not do this without obviously you all, but our amazing lead grantee in the project, APHSA, and we are actually joined today by Mary Nelson and Brandy Wisman, who can kind of help with the conversation as we go through this webinar. So what Courtney said is true. You guys can use the chat at any time. Please put in questions. That's kind of the point of today's session. We can always, talk amongst ourselves at the end of the session, but I'd love to know who's with us today. So if you could type in your organization, you could type in your name if you want, but sort of just, where you are would be really helpful. Something else that's helpful is hopefully you guys had an opportunity to watch last week's webinar, Ask the Expert, from Bob and Susan at Seattle Jobs Initiative. It was amazing. It took a very, deep dive into the federal SNAP ENT program, and they framed it for community action agencies. So, that's where you can get all your answers to funding and how this works. And, oh my gosh, do I have to start a whole new program? And obviously the answer is no, but it's just a really good sort of fundamental place to start. And Courtney mentioned that it's on our website right now. And then today's webinar will be there as well. Okay, so how about we go to the next slide? Okay, well, there you go. So Aaron and I, okay, well, our information is there. I'm sure you guys know how to reach us, but we can put this into the chat as well. But these are kind of your main folks at the partnership. Okay, let's go on. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so let's begin with some level setting and what I hope you take away from today's session. I'll give you a high-level overview of the SNAP ENT project so you can continue thinking about joining us and being a part of our cohort. And I know some of you are probably all ready to move forward, which is great. That overview will touch on the expectations and activities of the cohort. So basically what we will all be doing together as this grant progresses over the 3 phases and 3 years. Then I'll lay out some opportunities and benefits of joining the cohort and moving through this project with us. After we run through all of that, hopefully by the end of the session, you really won't have to ask the question anymore, what's in it for me? You'll say, you know, hey, we are a current SNAP ENT provider, and yes, we do need some extra support and some extra assistance. And so this project will help you with that. And if you're interested in becoming a new ENT provider, you're in the right place as well. So we're here to engage you with that and sort of map you out with your state as well. So if you still don't know what's in it for you at the end, we can make sure that that is clear. But that's where we're going. So then let's talk about the project on the next slide, please. Okay. So Aaron kind of touched on this, but the American Human Services Association, APHSA, tapped the partnership and the Association of Community College Trustees, ACCT. They're not here today with us, but I'm sure you'll have a chance to talk with them to explore the expansion of the SNAP ENT program among each of our respective networks. As a way to increase economic and social mobility. And this fits right in line with our mission of helping people and changing lives and connecting folks with the tools and resources that they need to help achieve self-sustainability. So we were just beyond excited that we were asked to join the project and just thrilled that community action agencies you know, we're being also recognized as viable and necessary service providers. Okay, so how is this going to work? ACCT and the partnership will leverage SNAP employment and training subject matter experts, and you heard from them last week, Seattle Jobs Initiative, they're amazing, to provide technical assistance across systems to increase understanding, improve coordination with state and local agencies, and then to scale ENT partnerships. So essentially, we're going to deliver intensive training and technical assistance to you guys and help you develop the resources and skills to become newly established third-party providers or to increase your capacity for existing third-party providers. And throughout the course of the project, your state and local leaders will have the chance to provide insight on developing these partnerships, but you'll also have the opportunity to educate and communicate with them on the value and scope of community action agencies. And then, you know, because each state administers their SNAP ENT program differently, and how they onboard new ENT providers varies as well. I kind of think the cohort will be more of a working steering committee, and we can work together and help develop roadmaps for your organization and align them with how your state operates its SNAP ENT program. And they are all different, as I'm sure you know. So it's basically an individualized plan with education, with trainings, with technical assistance, you know, all of what your organization needs to do and to be set up for success as you start applying to be a SNAP ENT third-party provider with your state. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, the outcomes. So what we hope to achieve is, of course, developing new ENT providers amongst you guys. That would be great. And then to strengthen and enhance the community action agencies that are current SNAP ENT providers. And by doing this, we will create and provide those tools and support that are just incredibly necessary to accomplish this. And the next slide, we'll kind of go into the phases of it. So there's just 3 phases. We're in phase 1 now, sort of the R&D, research and development, and then recruiting our cohort. This session is kind of one of those tools to see who's with us. We'll move into phase 2, which will be peer learning. Other webinars, that's where the training and the individualized assessments will start to happen. We'll start to make connections, which I'm sure you already have, but with your state and local agencies. And then that will move into phase 3, where we aim to take everything we've learned and accomplished and bring it to scale. So that's where we'll share what we've been learning with broader educational tools, more intensive network engagement and educational convenings, and kind of get our community action agencies on the runway and lined up with their state and how they onboard new providers. And the next slide, thank you, is the cohort. So I'm hoping all this kind of sounds easy and good, and folks might be a really good fit for the cohort and want to do this. It's critical. We have a strong, engaged, and committed cohort. And this project is 3 years, and there's, roughly 2.5 years left. So I know that it's a time commitment, but I will try to make it as fun as possible and as streamlined. We're not here to waste anybody's time. We're here to actually kind of impact your agency in a better way. But so kind of the 3 things we're looking for in a community action agency are the things that Bob and Susan brought up last week, but I call them the 3 keys. And it's a community action agency that has the right capacity, the right funding, and the right services that a service provider will need to have the state say, yep, I think you'd be a great fit. And so, capacity can mean anything from staffing to, how you administer your current federal programs, how you do assessments. So we're not asking you to, reinvent the wheel. We're just basically, having you do your own audit and say, yeah, we do this all the time. It's not going to be, it won't be a big step for us to bring this on. The right funding, that was also talked about last week, but you need experience, and I know you all do, clearly, but with federal funding and allocating those federal dollars. So you kind of need to have that knowledge. And then finally, the right services. You guys are just amazing at so many things. And through this research, we've learned that there's a really high demand for case management and supportive services, in addition to any workforce development you're doing currently. So if you can kind of say to yourself, yeah, we have all that, then we would love to know that, and then kind of keep going through the cohort with us. But again, this project is designed to enhance, current ENT providers, as well as, help onboard new ENT providers. But regardless of where you are, you're you're going to have those three keys. But if you're a current provider, you already have them. And so I think having you guys that have your program set up will just be amazing, peer sharing opportunities for everyone else. And then, yep, here we go. Okay, so what are we going to be doing in the cohort? Again, let's kind of do a high level overview. We'll first work on an MOU with us, and then get you into the cohort. You'll then, surprise, be seeing a lot of me and hearing from me a lot. You'll attend other webinars, other listening sessions, some focus groups, cohort convenings, educational opportunities where we can not only learn about your organization, but help you learn about your state and how your state operates, and kind of take best practices, lessons learned, and start developing your individualized assessments of your organization, and then help with the mapping of what services you could bring to the table as a provider and as a state network. So just want to underscore, we're not asking anyone to invent new services. We are going to work with you to leverage your current services and programs. Again, mentioning that case management, supportive services, workforce services are all in very high demand, and all the states that we've spoken to pretty much have underscored that. So we thought if there's a need, it looks like we can meet it. And then we'll help connect you with those folks and help strengthen the connections you already have with your state and local agencies, and help you navigate how your state operates its own SNAP ENT program and the process of its procurement. So again, these connections with your state and local SNAP agencies will help foster the discussions of what's needed, what types of services are in high demand, and where the service gaps are in your community, and how you guys can best serve SNAP recipients in your community. So as we get this cohort more solidified, we'll have probably another session like this in a few weeks. And then to break it down, just you've heard me say that every state is different. We'll kind of get community action agencies that are in one state and kind of work with you, work with the whole cohort, but then break it down to a sub cohort of community action agencies in your state. Because I'll say it again, although every state has to have a SNAP ENT program, there is not one manual. You can operate it many different ways. So we just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay, and then the question everyone's here to get answered. Aaron did mention, I guess before we get into this, Aaron did mention that, yes, there's a pandemic still going on, and our network is busy in 100 different directions. But if you think about it, the pandemic put so many additional people out of work. And I think just now more than ever, a workforce program is needed. And I know you all, in some form, there's workforce development folded into your organization. But if you're kind of looking for one to onboard, I think this is just a great opportunity. And it's a great opportunity to show even more folks that, you've been here for years doing this great work. So I think that's great. So, okay, so what's in it for me? Obviously, the top of mind would be becoming a SNAP ENT provider, and having your state recognize you as a needed service provider and grant you a service provider contract. I think through that and the expert support and technical assistance, that will come with that, I think, is also another benefit. These tools and the support you get not only will help you create new partnerships, but I think will help you strengthen existing partnerships, such as with other community-based organizations or community colleges, workforce boards, job centers, and other service providers. Even, I think, employers in your state. I think strengthening existing partnerships with your state and local agencies is also a benefit and kind of what's in it for you. And I know you already have great relationships with them, but I think it doesn't hurt to maybe connect with different people in state offices and obviously on a different program. So I think there's just a lot of learning and sharing that will happen, which I think is great. I think brand awareness is a pretty big deal. Telling your story, I think removing the best kept secret that is insanely frustrating is a huge benefit. And I think, being part of a national workforce initiative will help raise that brand awareness. And even through, past the partnerships and the technical assistance and the brand awareness, I keep seeing that there will be organic opportunities and new opportunities that grow from this, that, position your community action agency kind of with maybe a permanent seat at the table. I think that's kind of really needed. And I think having a national initiative will help do that. And then obviously the partnership will officially recognize the community action agencies that join us in this project. And I think another benefit would be moving forward, having you guys teach other community action agencies the path and maybe bringing, down the road, bringing even more people into service partnerships. So so this is something kind of interesting. When I was reaching out to you guys in my Zooms and WebEx video calls and even the good old telephone, finding out if you had an interest in this project, finding out if you wanted to, commit to a cohort. I learned a lot from you guys, and it's always amazing to know more about the network. So it's been just a real fun opportunity for me to get to know you. And I just wanted to share some of the things that you shared with me, because I think hearing it from your peers is a whole lot easier than me just sort of telling you this is a great program. But, this could really help strengthen our state network of community action agencies, one of you guys said, which is true. Sounds like this project would help prove that community action isn't something new. I think it would. A national workforce initiative like this will allow us to tell our story to our state leaders, 100%. We're pros at all the case management and leveraging our service and funding, so don't worry about that. We've always wanted to develop additional initiatives in our state that allow us to work more closely with our community action neighbors. So you're saying this project will help me navigate my current SNAP E&T partnership? Yep. And then one of my favorite ones from one of my favorite states, Massachusetts, we intentionally moved away from being known for only one service. Oh, you're a food pantry. Oh, you're just Head Start program. We moved more toward employment and workforce development intentionally because we wanted to be known as a workforce agency. Also, because one of the root causes of poverty is employment or the lack thereof. So yeah, this project is right in line with our mission and we're all in. I just thought that was pretty cool and wanted to share it with you so you um, know that it was important to me, and we're hearing you, and we hope you join us. We hope we can, fit together and move forward. I think, we have amazing partners in this, and I think there's just a lot of really great opportunity out there. So, thank you. And what we can do now is um, kind of go into a question answer session. I have questions for you guys. Don't be shy. Please take advantage of today. Yes, this will be on the website, but this is your chance to, ask your question. So if you want, I can start and you can unmute yourselves, or you can just put it into the chat. I see someone already has said, how do we put our hat in the ring? Kind of my first question, what are your thoughts? Or are you enthusiastic about a program like this? Can you envision doing this? Is it kind of something you've wanted to do or never thought about it, but you're just like, wow, this is great. So I can give you guys a second or two to enter the chat, or if there's folks who want to talk, please do. No thoughts, no enthusiasm. Come on. I like the how do we put our hat in the ring? So we'll just go with the group has that sentiment. So um, I've already kind of asked you who's here, which I like to know. Um, and thank you for putting that in the chat. Feel free to, if you haven't done that yet, you can drop your name in there. Um, okay, why don't we move to another question? Is SNAP ENT new to you, or has your agency tried this program before?
And Steph, as folks are maybe considering something to type in the chat about that, one thing I want to point out is, we have heard from some folks that, they've sort of been down this road before, and maybe they encountered some challenges. And one of the reasons that the USDA has launched this program um, with partners such as the Community Action Partnership, the APHSA, and others, is to better understand, what have been some of those barriers. So, um, this is an opportunity for our network um, and others to, to really influence and inform, um, national policymakers, particularly at the Ag Department, about ways that, maybe this program could be improved upon, ways that it could be streamlined in terms of onboarding new providers. So even if you have been down the road and maybe it didn't work out for your agency for any number of reasons, um, that would still be of interest to us and maybe to the group, because that's the type of learning that we want to collect and act upon, and see if we can figure out some new strategies in the future.
Thank you, Aaron. That's very true. Um, I'm literally trying to multitask by reading the chat, writing things down, because this is some um, good information. But I'm actually kind of curious if there's anyone here with us today that is a current SNAP ENT provider, and where you are, what state you're in, um, what you like about it, if there's any pain points. I think those are just as important to kind of um, talk about. I think the more we can get answered, I think the more of, you'll feel good about committing to a project that you know everything about. Which obviously we're not going to get to everything today, but it's a good start.
So, Steph, there is a comment from Dawn in the chat that um, that's a CAA that has some experience in the 50/50
Oh.
program in SNAP ENT, which is one of the funding mechanisms that you can learn more about in that Ask the Experts webinar.
Hmm.
And the comment there is that it's that the challenge is engaging participants. Um,
Mm.
so I don't know if that is a challenge that others have had specifically with SNAP ENT. I know there are a lot of issues generally about keeping folks engaged because of the many demands on their time and on their families. But that might be the type of information that could lead to a program improvement if we can identify some best practices in terms of
Hmm.
how do we effectively engage and continue to support the ongoing participation of participants. We'd love to learn
Exactly.
strategies about that.
Absolutely. Um, and that's, I think, a benefit of folks, a community action agency that is currently doing this. Maybe share lessons learned. Um, hey, we had success doing this process this way. Um, I think all those things will help because, there is just probably an initial, oh no, it's a new program. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to hire new people to help me run the program, or that are currently here, they're going to quit because they are, going to be asked to wear another hat, which none of that is true. We want to put something in front of you guys that is a right fit. And so, learning about your capacities and your funding and your services, and if you are a current ENT, sort of, what worked for you, I think are all just really important. Um, but let's see.
So,
Yeah.
Steph, there's another comment, and I had a feeling that this was going to be an issue because I've worked at a local agency, and I know that funding is often one of the challenges. Like we'd love to do that, but we don't have the money.
Hmm.
And there was a comment that came in about having some difficulty with match funds because this agency uses a lot of the funds that could be used as match funds because not everything can be, but they use a lot of those to support their HUD housing programs.
Mm.
So are there any suggestions that this group has that our panel has, or would there be some learning that folks could do about some new ways, some new funding streams or something that could maybe make a SNAP ENT 50/50 project more plausible? Because I think that's a big challenge for
Hmm.
agencies is, if we had the money, we'd do it, but we're not sitting on a funding stream that we can just dedicate to the 50/50 matching program for SNAP ENT. So what's your
Hmm.
suggestion for agencies that are um, interested maybe, but just limited in terms of resources?
Yeah, I guess find that funding stream, drink from it. But those are the things that, the individualized assessments will help with. And so, yes, obviously a funding, or, funding in general is always on top of mind with community action agencies. And not to skirt that question, but Courtney did put back in the chat the link to last week's session. It is just a great, either reminder or learning fundamental webinar. But, to revisit that question, obviously, yeah, there is a funding component here. And I think, developing the focus groups and within the learning communities that we'll have, those are the topics we can address. And I think those would be, some best practices, here are some options. I think those are things that would be a perfect question for a cohort, because we could all sort of learn together. But I'm curious, since this has come up in some of my outreach, is how you all engage with other community action agencies in your state. And I realize some states are very large and you might not be relatively close with each other, but how you currently interact is of interest to me, because I think one of the words we keep using is partnership, and I think some of you guys have very close knit state agency networks, and others might not have it as close knit, and it may just because of geography, or different communities obviously have different needs. But I think having that support system in your state would be great for this project. Kind of leaning on each other, mapping different services. The goal of this program is to find out what each of you has to offer in your community and make sure that we're not duplicating any services, but basically, telling the state, hey, community action agencies are, have been here for years, and we have been doing this great work. And we'd like to come to the table and serve more folks in our community in, a workforce program. And here's how we can help. Here's the services we could offer. I use this sort of phrase a lot, like, we're an extra set of hands. If you need us, here's how we can help. And then, how you guys help each other. I've learned a little bit of that, and I thought it was just kind of a really cool thing to discover. But I'm also trying to read some of these chats. So if you could put that in the chat, I'm so curious about that. And then kind of, learning about this project, the sort of overview that we've done in my direct outreach with you guys. If you start thinking, how this project could help your agency achieve some of your goals, do you have a goal of helping more folks? Do you have a goal of, onboarding a workforce, angle to your agency? What are your goals? So, and would this project, help you reach those goals?
So, Steph, there's a question about the 50/50 match funding and kind of how that works, and questions like that can be difficult to answer because it's really going to depend on a lot of factors. But I wonder if maybe just there are some general descriptions that you could provide about how is it feasible for an agency to kind of dip its toe in the water as a third party provider with a relatively small match, um, and then grow? Because I think one of the exciting things about the 50/50 match is that it provides a growth opportunity. So maybe you could say a little bit about that in general terms, and recognize that the specifics are going to be very dependent on the services that you provide and the way that the program is administered in your state.
Yeah, Well, what if I lean on Mary Nelson to help me answer that? Yes, the 50-50 match is probably on everyone's mind. And again, I'll just stress there's an amazing webinar to watch and listen to. But just, if that is a question that keeps coming up, I'd like to lean on Mary to, maybe explain that in a little bit more detail, if that's possible, Mary.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So it's a reimbursement program. So if you don't put up any um, funds for reimbursement, even if you've been onboarded as a provider, then you're just at that point really an inactive provider. So it's whatever you put into the program and then submit for reimbursement is what you're going to get back. So theoretically, the answer, and I want to caveat too that it's really, really difficult to answer. I see some very specific questions about how do we find match funds, or is it what how does this work? And it's so highly dependent on your state and location and how you structure the agreements with your individual lead agency. But generally speaking, it's going to be what you put into it that you get back. So you could start out, and in fact, most of the time you have to start out really small, because this is really a learn and grow kind of program. It's not a program that providers typically start out with serving 50 people. This is something you really have to grow over time. So it's more common to start small, and theoretically you could be onboarded as a provider and then not serve any clients for that year at all. I wouldn't recommend that, because then whatever agency you're contracting with might say, well, what's happening here? Are you maybe not a good fit? But you could think about, a really small amount of participants that you're serving, especially in your first year, while you're learning how to manage the administrative aspects of the program, and then grow from there. This is very much a program where I think the best strategy is to start small and scale. I think that I hope that answers the question. And I just want to again reiterate that it's really difficult to answer specific questions about particular agencies and particular states, because it's going to depend on so many factors.
And
Yeah.
so I just want to jump in and say that that's one of the resources that that we want to make available to each of you potentially, um, to at least uh, help take some of those initial steps to kind of learn what some of those issues are. We've had a lot of conversations with different state offices that administer the program, and so if we can help um, shed some light on some of these questions and help make some connections, we'd like to do that. We can't guarantee that that we'll be successful, just because different states run the program differently, and we do know that there are some states where it's a little bit more of a challenge to get your foot in the door. Um, but the questions that are coming up today, these are exactly the sorts of things that um, that we want to work with you to try to answer and see if we can um, come up with solutions that that could potentially help you become a third party provider, if you think that would be helpful to your customers and your community.
Yes, that's that's exactly it. Um, there is a question in the chat about the timeline for the cohort and the project to begin. The project has begun. We are in phase one. Um, It is a 3-year project ending in September of 2023. So phase 1 is developing the cohort, finding out which of you would be the right fit, with those 3 keys, and maybe the 4th key of, yes, let's do this, I'm excited about it. And having that commitment to stick with us throughout, the next 2.5 years. Okay, so how about we do one other thing? I'm curious if you could maybe put in the chat or unmute, what kind of services does your community action agency currently offer?
Well, with over 50 participants in this webinar and knowing community action, I think we're going to need a few more hours to cover all
I
of those
bet.
services. But again, thinking about what it might be or what it might involve to become a third-party provider, we just really want to emphasize, you don't have to have, an employment program or a job training program, or something like that, because some of the most critical E&T services that are in demand are those supportive services. And um, I think we all know that many of our community partners, training and educational institutions, a lot of them just don't have the resources to provide all of those services to folks that are participating in those programs. And that's always an open door for community action to sort of, step in and say, we can do that. We can do that with some funding, because we don't do it for free, but that's where the conversation can start. So we really encourage you to think broadly about all the different things that you do. Head Start, transportation, childcare, nutrition, um, just the whole spectrum of services that support working families. Many of those um, are very much in line with with being a third party provider for this program. Yeah, I see utility assistance, weatherization, homeless and housing services, apprenticeship youth programs. This is just at one agency. So many of those, if not all of them, could potentially be connected to SNAP E&T. But again, it really depends on how the program is administered in your state, and that's where we can help make some of those connections.
Yeah, I think, what I was hoping to uncover is, you listing services that you're currently doing, and just to underline that, we're not asking you to create new services. Just basically leveraging what you're doing. Since, SNAP E&T is for recipients that fall within the demographics we currently already serve. That's a huge foot in the door, but then offering, the services to them that are in your wheelhouse, and not feeling that you have to recreate the wheel or create, a new program or a new service. So we have a few minutes left. If there's a burning question you have, I did put my email into the chat. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you don't want to put in the chat, but I do want to leave the few remaining minutes that we have for anything else, or if Mary had any other questions, or, just to kind of give you guys a chance to have
I
the
just
floor.
want to, oh, sorry, Steph. I
Yeah,
didn't mean
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
talk over you. I just want to clarify. I think there was a question in the chat, and Steph answered about the timeline of the project, but I think someone else mentioned, and maybe they were confused about the timeline of what it seems like what they were answering is actually the timeline of providers service provision and that being around the fiscal year. And I just want to make sure that there's not any confusion around that, because while that might be true in the state that that person's in, the timeline for providers contracting and service provision varies from state by state. So don't, if that's true in your state, then that's great. But each potential provider in terms of service provision needs to align with whatever is happening in their state. So some of them do line up with the fiscal year, some of them line up with state plans, some of them do procurement on a rolling basis. So I just wanted, I think that the answer was actually referring to service provision, and I think the question was about our project, but I just wanted to make sure to clarify there so there wasn't any confusion.
Yes, thank you. And, that is just one other example on how, many different threads are in this SNAP ENT sweater. Every state, can administer it differently. The procurement process is different. So there's just a lot of moving factors. And I think, one of the benefits is we'll help you navigate all of that. We'll, figure out what your state's plan is and how the processes are, and help match, your organization with the needs of that state. And I think I was asking that Deets actually put that question in. Is there a mapping of what the current ENT providers are by state? Yes, you being in Massachusetts, obviously that differs, but yeah, so every state has a state plan, and it does delineate, how they want their ENT program to operate. There's a lot of information on each state's website about current providers, the current list of their third-party providers, but that mapping is kind of, where a lot of people need help. And even folks who have current ENT programs might need some extra assistance with that mapping. So we have about 2 more minutes. And again, feel free to reach out directly. I will be following up with each of you as we move forward to sort of, make sure the cohort is getting solidified, and, the right folks are in it and they're excited about it. And then matching them up with the states that have told us, yep, there's a need, and we would love to explore that need with community action agencies. Okay, so Aaron or Mary, do you have any other questions?
No, I guess I just wanted to, well, I want to thank everyone for participating, and just Steph, ask if you can, just kind of say one more time what the next steps are if folks are interested. What's next?
Yeah, so what's next is probably another connection point with me as we develop the cohort, just to say again, this won't be a fit for everyone. And that is, it's a little frustrating and upsetting if you really want to be a part of this program. But to be successful, you kind of have to have those three keys, the right capacity, right funding, right services. And you have to be located in a state that needs additional third-party providers. So next steps would be continuing that narrowing down of states that we'll focus on, and agencies that we'll focus on, and then move them into the cohort. So again, it would be some outreach from me, some assessments that we can do together, and then kind of keep going. I want to reiterate what Erin said. I do thank you all. I know how busy each of you are. And I really appreciate you attending this. If you have folks that you work with who were unable to spend some time with us today, this will be located on our website in a few days under the tools and resources page. And if you scroll down to webinars, it will be there. But I wanted to thank Mary and Brandy for taking the time to be with us. Wanted to thank Erin for being with us. And thank you to Courtney for making me feel 100% better about this technology. And then again, a big thank you to you all. We will be reaching out and kind of hopefully moving forward together. So thank you so much.